Hello, the purpose of this video is to walk you through Lesson 4, Growing Food on the Moon. The guiding question for this lesson is, how can we make a plan for feeding astronauts on the moon? You can see here that this is Lesson 4, Unit 4 in the Living and Working on the Moon unit. The 5 E's are listed there, and I will now talk you through this lesson step by step. In Engage, you're going to ask students to think about the plants they've eaten, including any locally or culturally important plants, and then to consider the reasons why we eat. This is to set them up for thinking about the importance of food for astronauts going so far from Earth. It would be really helpful before the lesson if you are able to review MO-4 and the agricultural plan examples that are in the lesson plan. These will really help you understand where this lesson is going and get an idea of where your students might need additional support. The Explore section of this lesson is very important. In this section, students will plan and carry out an investigation in order to produce evidence about the time or resources that are needed to produce food from plants. So we are really focusing here on the production of food plants, and we have some ideas listed in the lesson of some food plants that are rather quick to produce food. Before this lesson, you should definitely spend some time reviewing the teacher tips for scaffolding investigations. Your students may never have planned their own investigation before, but it's very important that they have an active hand in deciding what this investigation should look like. Decide how little scaffolding your students will need to succeed. And sometimes we say, how much will they need? But we really want to provide them as little support as possible and still have them reach success. So check out that scaffolding table to get some ideas on areas where you might be able to support your students. And finally, consider and gather the materials that you will make available to students for the investigation. This could be a variety of things, including your basic materials like soil, seeds, cups, or bags to grow the plants in. Could also include equipment like light meter or light meter apps on your phone, thermometers, rulers, things like that. And available from NESB, grow lights, and digital scales to basically weigh whatever plant matter is produced so that you can use that weight to calculate calories, which is how we measure food. This is part of the MO-4 deliverable to have your students document their investigation, what they did, photographs, and various other things as detailed in the MO-4 deliverables. In Explain, students will analyze the data from their experiments in order to make a claim about the number of calories that their plant produced and the amount of time and or resources that it took to produce the calories. We're talking about inputs and outputs here. So how much time, fertilizer, water went into creating the output of calories that you can eat. The agricultural plan claim is in the Elaborate section. So in this section, students will use the data from their experiments as evidence to support a claim. You will see in the lesson plan, there is a template for this and also some examples. So again, if you did not review those examples before you started the lesson, definitely review them before you start this section of the lesson. In Evaluate, students will document their work and learning for this lesson by checking out those deliverables in MO-4 and recording them. That includes the experiment as well as the agricultural plan claim. If you have more time or high interest students, check out the Extend. You have two options in the Extend. One is for students to investigate the food that is produced and consumed in their local area. Option 2 is to investigate careers at NASA related to the work of this lesson. Some standards alignment highlights for this lesson include planning and carrying out investigations. That is the most important science and engineering practice in this lesson. And again, as educators, we're often used to planning the investigation for our students and only asking them to carry it out. And I'm encouraging you to use that scaffolding table to include students in the planning as much as they are able. And then when you're writing your agricultural claim, that is engaging in argument from evidence, which is another science and engineering practice. The NGSS content standards for this lesson revolve around life science, particularly the needs of plants and how the availability of resources can impact how well plants do. And in ELA, The content standards are around writing, with claims and evidence being very important parts of those ELA writing standards. Some time estimates for this lesson and some tips. So the full lesson we estimate will take around 4.5 hours. Now that does not include the extended observation period for sprouting or growing plants. You might need to design the experiments and get the plants going, and then basically let them be plants for a while and maybe go back and just observe them a couple of times a week until they are ready for harvesting, to weigh them to calculate how many calories they are. That extended observation period, you should just move on to another lesson and come back and complete this lesson after the plants have matured, and then you can go through and make your claim. One expediting tip is to choose plants that are quick to sprout and quick to produce food, and we have some ideas on that in the lesson. Things like bean sprouts or lettuce are popular choices. To learn more about Lesson 4 and MO-4, please check out the NESB website. You can go to the page that looks like this and click on these icons to see more about the lesson or about the mission objective. Have fun with Lesson 4.